What is good, everyone? A-Rock Oakley back with another deck tech video. We've already done this one before, but this is a update. I took this to a case tournament and had some good success. I got second place, only losing one match to Quinlan Tarkentown, which is a tough matchup, but not unwinnable. But I wanted to talk about this. Been loving this brew. Got a lot of inspiration from the Han Audacious Smuggler that did really well at the Bologna PQ. We have some good spice in here, and I have some great options that I'm obviously going to be considering, and I'll talk about some really cool lines that this deck has access to and why it feels so powerful in the current meta. So starting us off, we'll just talk about the units, and we'll talk about Han and himself, like being able to cheat action, cheat resources on actions, cheat resources for an action, can really do a lot and put you super far ahead. And there are some turns where we can go from 4 to 7 resources in this deck, which is pretty crazy. But most often we're going from 5 to 7, allowing us to play really big stuff on that 5 resource turn, and that puts us very ahead. We're putting out Han Solos or Enfys Nests or playing a Ewing and putting out multiple units. We're doing a lot to gain a really big advantage, also while having a solid 4/6 body on our leader to do some work, and that can be really good. And we make use of the smuggle mechanic, and we have some discarding. We have a lot of great options here around this deck. So I run one R2D2 ignoring protocol. I like this one just as a great Ewing hit and a filtering and just a solid unit to get back. But another part of that is because we're playing 3 of the R2D2 full of solutions. We're going to talk about a space unit, the Marauder, here in a bit, that having extra R2s can be additional ramp, which is great and great to have access to. So this package is fantastic. I really like R2D2 on turn 1. I know that we're already pitching cards, but there are a couple things that you're going to be digging for with R2D2. So on turn 1, we're pitching a card, trying to find our other piece of the DJ Tech combo, which I will talk about here in a moment. We're trying to find the other piece to that, or we're trying to find resupply. And if we don't find anything, we're just grabbing cards, and we're taking 3 cards that aren't a part of that resupply or DJ Tech combo and putting them to the bottom, digging us deeper to those two pieces that we're looking for to get ahead. So even if we miss, we're still getting ahead. So big fan of R2D2 full of solutions. He carries a blaster well, which we play 2 of, and that makes him a 4/4, and he does really well. He's great on offense and just does work. So big fan of R2D2. Love seeing the card. Battlefield Marine, just an efficient unit in our colors, in command heroism. Like, I feel like we should be using this. Trades really well and can apply good pressure. So strong turn 1 play, good Ewing hit, just all around great unit. And a card that I wasn't on before, this was like Greedos and could go back to being Greedo, but with the prevalence of Cad Bane Tarkentown and Django even running some Cad Bane units, having the ability to rescue from our resource row is really strong. And a shielded 2/2, a crafty smuggler, essentially is still strong into the Tarkentown decks. So this is still a good unit. It can do a lot of work. I think mainly it's being used for the rescue mechanic. It can be incredibly backbreaking where they think that they've done a really good job of using their Cad Bane to get ahead, and then you take the unit that they just took, or one of the units they just took, we get ahead at that point. Very, very strong, and it's easy to just put in the resources and bring back later on turns when maybe you have a little disruption or we just need to apply some more pressure. So keep that in mind. L3 is very good, and I think is really strong. Now, if the CAD unit is less played, I will probably switch this out. But right now, loving L3 as one of our options to be playing. Echo-based Defender, I think, is kind of a must-have for this deck. Being able to lock down space, or the ground arena, and then we have Bright Hopes to lock down the space. Echo-based Defender just is amazing. We want to see this off of Ewing's. If we're not going for a 7-drop off of Ewing, this plus something else or two things is exactly what we want to be doing to apply pressure and to insulate us on the ground. What this does as well is this also will allow for, you know, our Battlefield Marines and L3s and R2D2s to trade into units after the fact. So Echo-based Defender, when it dies, it is leaving a mark on whatever unit attacked into it if it doesn't take it with it. So yeah, Echo-based Defender just does work. We love to see it. Now on to the Spice, Tech, and DJ. Tech on his own is an absolute insane card. Being able to turn all of our resources into smuggleable cards. This gives us late game. This gives us even some early game if you play him out and you're just smuggling out, you know, an L3 or a Battlefield Marine just to keep applying pressure. That's great. But the simple fact that this combo exists, that we can play Tech on turn 2 or turn 1 into a DJ on the third turn is insane. And that's what takes us. We're at 4 resources with Tech on the board and a DJ in the row. We Han action, we resource, go to 5. DJ still a resource because we can play him out 4/5 with Tech's ability. And now we're at 6. We deploy Han and we attack and we go to 7. And then we have multiple resources to destroy. You destroy the resource that you take. And we have now ramped. And we're going to be going from 6 to 7 now. And we've also like de-ramped our I don't even know how you would say that, but we're gonna go with de-ramp because that's what I'm going with here. You can de-ramp your opponent and set them back a turn. So they might not be able to deploy. If they don't respect this, you can keep them from deploying on a turn. The highlight of that case event against Green Palpatine, I was able to DJ them 3 times. They never got to deploy Palpatine in game 3. And that's just backbreaking. At that point, the sheer amount of value you're gaining and keeping them off is pretty wild. So be looking for this. This whole part it's insane. And you can aggressively go for it. And into control decks, if you have ramped, you can just DJ for 9 if you can beat them to it and keep them off of Avengers and Super Laser Blasts and make it really, really difficult for them to kind of stay in the game. So don't be afraid to make use of even the high smuggle cost of 9, even if you don't have the tech. But he is also a 3/5. That is a very relevant stat line. DJ does work. He's not bad. I have ripped him off of Ewing's just to put 3 power on the board with the 5 HP. It's really strong. So Tech DJ, getting it. Super good. If the Han turn is disrupted, we have Plo Koons to kind of still swing in. And it is sometimes not remembered that he has raid 3 with coordinate. That thing can take out a lot of strong units. You can ramp into this and leave back the threatening ability to be able to hit for 6, 8, or 9, depending on what pumps you have on the following turn. So Plo not only trades well, he attacks and removes well, but then he can also be on the offensive. So Plo, very, very strong unit. Another great ambush unit is the Han Solo. I'm on 2 of these. I could see myself going up to 3, but I think some of the other lines that we're playing allow us to just be on 2, and this is great. Right where we want to be. A card that has, in the 7 slot, that has kind of created only having the need for 2 Han Solos, because sometimes Han Solo isn't your best unit. And Enfys Nest, Saboteur, when played, you may return an enemy non-leader unit with less power than this unit to its owner's hand. So it has immediate board impact. You're able to bounce things, and now we can, in a lot of ways, keep them from playing cards, because if they don't deal with this, you just keep bouncing whatever small units they're playing into Django. This is insane. I don't mind taking 2 damage from a Ruthless Raider every turn. They have to tap down Enfys Nest, which is totally fine, but then on the next turn we can just bounce it back to their hand because we are likely to have initiative at that point. And it's just crazy. It blanks an Obi-Wan, it blanks the Sentinels, it rips through shields. Enfys Nest is insane. If I didn't see as much value in this, I'd be on 3 Han Solo, but I love the 2/2 package here. And the last ground unit, we have 1 Reinforcement Walker. For a while, this was a 3rd home 1, but I think having a card like Reinforcement Walker that is healing immediately or giving us card draw and is a really, really kind of annoying unit to deal with, this card's great. This card won me a game against Han Audacious Smuggler Yellow, Han Cunning, where he bounced it multiple times, but I was just flipping cards over and healing, and anything he was attacking with wasn't really doing anything. And the Reinforcement Walker eventually was able to stick and just smash base for 6, and that's really good. So the top end on the ground is really, really strong. So let's move on to space. One of the best vehicles we could be playing in space is the Millennium Falcon, piece of junk. Just pretty insane being able to make use of the resource that we destroy off of Han's ability. We can use as that resource we pay. So we're able to keep this out without much drawback. And being able to bounce it can make it really pesky for removal. It tackles a lot of space units. It takes them out. And only trades with a few, which is great. So the fact that it will still be around and they have to deal with it with their upcoming actions is great. So we love that. Bright Hope being one to protect our Falcons and just give us some great insulation in space. Card's insane. With the 1-drop R2, it's really great to do this. Pick up the R2, draw a card, maybe even be able to play another resource down and kind of and make use of R2's ability. So love Bright Hope. It soaks attacks from Ruthless Raider, it soaks attacks from Fet's Fire Spray, from other Falcons, from you name it. So it is a really big roadblock in space. So Bright Hope does work. And when it's not good, it's a really easy card to side out. So if you're not playing against a very heavy space deck, and you can easily pull this out, or if you feel like a Falcon is enough, then that's fine. This is a card that's easy to side out. This is also very good into like Bosk and other decks where they're putting bounties on your units, because you can Bright Hope and pick up your ground unit. So if they do go for the ground bounties, that's a great option for you to have to kind of keep you from getting blown out from that card. So really strong space options there. So the card that has been surprising me the most is the Marauder. I didn't think this was doing enough, and I thought it was too hard to pull off the ramp, but with what we're able to do now, R2 full of solutions, his pitch ability can set this card up. If you're not going to use the Marauder early, and we might be able to draw it off a U-Wing or something later, you can pitch a Marauder off of R2 and or destroy a Marauder off of a Han ability, knowing that you have 2 more in the deck that are coming. Now that guarantees when you play the Marauder, you grab the Marauder from your discard pile and put it into your resource row. That gives it extra value. So if you see that as a good line, the Marauder will do work. It ambushes in space. It leaves back a 4 attacking unit in space, which is a clock. And it, again, has immediate impact, and we can ramp. One of the best things you can do as well with this is if you have a tech on board and a tech in the discard pile, to keep your techs going and cycled in, putting a tech from the discard pile into your resource row is incredibly good against control. So this is not something you want to side out. Even though you may not have many targets for the ambush, you can still make use of that ability to give you extend the game much longer. So Marauder was at a 2 for me for the longest time, up to 3. Very impressed with this card. If I would highly suggest playing 3 Marauders in this deck, because the the upside of this card is insane, and it just ambushing as a 4/5 for 5 in space is totally fine. It can be if your Han flip turn is disrupted, it's a great card to just play and keep developing the board, which is really good. And then I'm on 2 home 1. Obviously, we have the reinforcement walker to be the 3/8 cost, so to have some big bombs. Home 1 bringing back a ton of different units to really play the game is fantastic. Grabbing Echo Base Defender, Falcon, Tech, R2D2 even if you want to kind of keep filtering. And that's the other part about the R2D2 that I didn't touch on. In the later turns, you are digging for your follow-ups to your home ones and your U-Wings and your Han Solos and Enfys Nest. You're trying to find the follow-up card. So if you U-Wing and you have an R2D2 and you don't have that great of a card in hand, but you maybe have something like strong, it might be better to pitch to dig for the next big bomb that you can play on the following turns. Because that's where I think Han Solo really shines, is going just threat and bomb after threat and bomb, and you just keep going and you apply pressure that way. And the ability to rebuild from U-Wing and home 1 after our board gets decimated is a really strong point to this deck. So now we're going to move on to the events and upgrades. 2 Spark of Rebellion main, just a great card to see. If you can time it right, if you're maybe not going for 7, it's good to just spark to make sure that your Han flip turn makes sense. Also, delaying your Han flip turn can be really good because then you might be able to go guarantee your 7 drop and or go from 6 to 8, and then you can drop a big a walker or something like that. There's a lot of lines there, so don't be afraid for that. But spark can really clear the way, and can just a well-timed spark can really win you a game. So fantastic card. We have the 3rd in the side, which is great. Surprise Strike, I just kind of always want in Han Solo. Being able to use this to close games, it's great to be smuggled in and smuggled out from Tech for 4. It's like still worth it at that point. And with Enfys Nest, you can pump her, and now you're bouncing something that has 7 attack. So you can get rid of basically everything. And I think that is incredibly strong to have access to. And yeah, just finishes games, which is really, really great. So 2 Waylay. Again, this is kind of our removal spell. Bouncing at the right time can be really, really good. And a well-timed Waylay gets it. Very strong card. I could see myself trying to play 3, but with the space we have, you don't always need this, especially with Enfys Nest, and sometimes we're the aggressor, we're not trying to do the tempo plays, so we're ramping ahead, and then we hit the pedal to the metal, so don't always need it. But in those pedal to the metal, when we've developed a board, this can just be backbreaking when they drop something big, and then you just bounce it back to their hand. A necessity of 3 resupply. Games where you resupply feel awesome. They feel so good, and you know, those games feel very slanted in our favor. And sometimes we won't see this, but we might see the Tech DJ combo. In those games, it feels slanted in our favor. So we have access to 2 really strong, techs and I guess, options that can really put us super far ahead. So resupply, absolutely insane card. U-Wing reinforcement is what we kind of want to be ramping into. This helps us find our 7s. This helps us find multiple units to go wide. It rebuilds our board. It does a lot of work. So U-Wing, I mean, if you've played this card or played against this card, you know how insanely powerful it is. U-Wing's dope. And we have 2 blasters. Again, one of my favorite cards from set 2, action cheating. Easy card to resource when the amount of times you can blaster on an Enfys Nest or blaster any unit and to push some really big damage, it just feels so good. And if that unit survives, and now that this 3 resource action cheat got to add 4 damage to the game, that feels insane. So that's a great little upgrade event package we have going on there, and it can do a lot of work. So the sideboard I ran was the 3rd Spark with 2 Sundari Peacekeepers in case we faced aggro. 2 Kira. I could see Kira going into the main. I just have not, in matchups where it's not very good, I just don't want to ever see it. But I think there are better places to play Kira. I will admit, I am not the best Kira timing person, but I'm getting better at it and something I want to do. So I really only want it in the matchups where I know it's going to be impactful and be good. But having it in the main sometimes felt not as strong. So she moved to 2 of the side. I definitely want to have 2 in the heavy disruption when I'm, bringing in the sparks. I'm generally bringing in the 2 Kiras as well to really slow the game down. Syndicate lackeys into the mirror or Han yellow is insanely important. You got to have an answer to tech. And this is great into Sabine. Having an answer into Sabine, also very good. And yeah, Syndicate Lackeys just kind of does work as a 5-drop. It's similar to Plo in that way of on the Han turn, if things are getting disrupted, Han flip turn, you can just play a Syndicate Lackeys and still apply pressure. Because if this thing survives, it just is an absolute beater, which is great. So, and then some big ones to go with it. Fennec for when we need to trade very far up, and a great ambush unit similar to Han goes way bigger, especially in this deck where we can set up a big Fennec, being able to manipulate our discard pile pretty efficiently. The second Reinforcement Walker and the third Home one. Again, grindy matchups, you might have Kira and Spark and these 3 coming in. In aggro matchups, it might be the Lackeys and the Peacekeepers. You name it. So it feels pretty simple, pretty streamlined, and it allows us to, go big game if we know that the game is going to go late, and gives us some really great options in the side. I like the side where it is, but we're going to talk about some other cards that I have considered and want to bring in. I think I touched on the R2 lines, the Tech DJ. Yeah, I think I covered most of that. Another part of Home 1 that I want to kind of remind people of, it reduces the cost. So when you're in the really big resource turns, don't be afraid to try and pay more for a Bright Hope or pay more for a Plo Koon. There are times where games will go long enough where you might be able to bring back an Emphas Nest or a Han Solo. So keep that in mind with Home 1. It doesn't mean it's 3 or less. It just costs 3 less. So you just have to pay the resources. So that could be really impactful. So we'll talk about a handful of cards. I'm going to try and run through these quick, but Greedo, great option, good Ewing target and presents damage. This is L3's spot where I'm feeling more threatened by, and I feel like I have enough aggression that I can get through it, and I don't need this where I want to be able to deal with the CAD unit and get those cards back. So may come back in because it becomes a great Ewing target and applies pressure. Scanning Officer, if Han Green and Han Yellow are going to be really big, I think that this might be a card we need to have somewhere in the 60, because that can be a big blowout to rip out if they go for tech and then you go Scanning Officer and rip the DJ. That's backbreaking and can legit mean you don't lose on the spot. So, because if you get tech DJ'd, I just think it's one of the most backbreaking combos, especially when done on 5 resources. Cloud Rider is a good one into aggro, but I personally like Battlefield Marine over this card because I want to have a unit back and I want to be able to use it. And Cloud Rider doesn't really pair well with Plo, since he's likely going to he's going to be gone after he ambushes, and that hurts coordinate. So this could be very strong. Another couple units that we can use, and I think one that's really strong to keep coordinate going, is Grogu. Grogu can tap down pesky units, and if they are taking resources and actions to take out Grogu, you're going to be ahead. That's giving you time to find the combo pieces. This was originally in my sideboard, but I took it out, and definitely floating around the idea of bringing it back in. Leia as a kind of one-of hit off of Ewing, it can do a lot of work. Leia is a pretty cool unit. A well-timed Leia can, really blank someone's turn. So very strong. Lux Bonteri was in my OG list. I just think into Triple Dark Raid and Ewings, this is pretty sick. And it's not a bad unit, but I think that there likely will be more cards that do a lot what Triple Dark Raid and Ewing do in the future, and we should always kind of consider Lux as an option because he can, it can make it to the point in later turns where if you're able to ready a big unit, they can't play that spell if Lux is on the board. Yeah, that can be a blowout, which is really cool. Bamboozle can be a great option. You could play Confiscate, but Bamboozle I think is great, being able to pitch cards, which we can set up to grab back off of Home One or use off of Marauder. Can be really nice. So Bamboozle's great, strong card. Admiral Akbar, an insane Ewing target. I loved having one of, but I don't think it's as meta relevant right now, but I definitely always want to consider the fish. I think he's just amazing. So we want to see him sometimes, and keeping him in our maybe board is great. Ezra Bridger, great card. I think if I wasn't so heavily on the Tech DJ that this would be in somewhere, but I think with leaning into that, this feels fine. But Ezra unanswered does work, and you can be aggressive with an Ezra on the board because you can aggressively use Han's ability, rip your hand apart, because you are also playing off the top of your deck and filtering your draws for future turns. Space heavy decks, Azatuk is a great card to keep in mind if you are into a very space heavy. The Marauder does a lot of what this does, but does it with just one turn later and has a stronger upside and takes out more bigger toughness. So Azatuk is great as a unit and something we should be considering. Chewbacca, along with, I'll put Riken down here. So if we are going a very heavy Sentinel build, I would love to have these both in the main. I don't think it's necessary right now, but say the meta gets very aggressive, I could see these coming in to really slow the game down. Cloud Rider might even be considered as well. Akbar could be considered as well into that type of meta. But a Riken onto a Chewbacca, an Echo-based Defender, or a Bright Hope is nuts. And yeah, we don't have an ambush. Timely intervention could be something you bring in if you're playing this to make General Riken a 6/8, but we're not going to be doing that now. But these are great cards. Traitorous, I think, is another really strong card to be considering. Taking their tech could be sick. Taking their Lurking TIE Phantom or whatever, like it can be really good. It's definitely something that, because we can ramp into it pretty easily and get pretty far ahead, and if they don't have an answer, very strong, but maybe not as necessary with the decent amount of upgrade removal. And if upgrade removal is going to get better in future sets with the pilot mechanic, Traitorous might go down in value, but I still think it's a card we should have in mind. Big Falcon, Lando's Pride. This one is a great space unit, easy to put in the Smuggle row, great into control to bring out so we can extend the game. Great into Django of being able to ambush it for 6. So this can be, they think you're going to be going for a 7 play. They tap down your Han. You use Big Falcon and take out something in space. Great card to consider. Change of Heart, yeah, a well-timed change of heart wins games, and or can get you back in a game. So we like to see that. And the spice I had before, Overwhelming Barrage, something I always want to keep in mind. So the off-aspect stuff that you can consider with this, because we are playing Ewing, you can play Cad Bane unit, Overwhelming Barrage, Luke unit. You can play Maul. You can play a lot of insane 7-drops if you want to be spicy, and that is kind of the Casino Han build. But they can be sideboard cards. They can be great. Even a lot of those cards, paying 9 for them is probably fine. Luke for 9, probably fine, especially if something was removed. Keep that in mind. Cad unit can be insane off of a U-Wing, even for 9. It can answer their Cad when likely we've ramped. So yeah, I think that the spice is there because of what Han can do. There's a lot of extra cards that we can play because I think, we have, these Ewing targets, and we can play out of aspects since we generally ramp more than most other decks. So yeah, this is my new iteration on Han with Echo Base. I think this deck has been really fun to play. It feels really cool, and yeah, just just a good one. I definitely see a lot of upside, and I like that the green version is seeing some sweet, sweet love. Yeah, well, if there's any cards that I maybe missed, or if you have any comments, questions about the list, please make sure you're on the KTOD Discord, join them. We talk a lot about that on the Han Green channel, and may follow Bothan Network, follow a bunch of the amazing media people in Star Wars. They're just killing it, and join those Discords because it's well worth it. The amount of discussion that goes on makes the game so much better. So, but yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Check out other videos I have on the channel, and if you have any questions, don't be afraid to hit me up. Stay awesome, everybody, and may the Force be with you.